Hello, my beautiful friends. Welcome. I wanted to film a very quick message to honor the passing of time, to honor the season, the beginning of Yule, if that is something that you observe. Obviously, we have Christmas and the winter season and the winter solstice at the weekend here in the Northern Hemisphere. We are recognizing and honoring the passing of time and the cycles of change that we all experience. For me personally, we've just closed out this Mercury retrograde, and there is so much that has come to the surface, along with a very real dawning realization for me personally that 2020 was 5 years ago. You know, the beginning of 2020 was very nearly 5 years ago, and come January, it just feels like there is so much that's changed, but also I'm recognizing within myself just how much still needs to change, how much I still want to grow, and there are still things that I'm very, very ready to let go of. Now, the winter season, autumn passing into winter, is often a time for reflection. I mention Yule because through the winter season, what is it that our ancestors would have done but taken themselves back into home towards the hearth, connected with their families to spend time together? They would have regaled each other with stories. They would have reflected over the year that had been and made plans for the year that would come. And I think in many ways, spending time with family is a way for us to still honor that tradition, but it's something that we can distract ourselves from because there is so much to distract us in our exterior worlds. Now, not all of that is a bad thing, of course not, but I think carving out some time, making some space to have that inner process, to ask ourselves, what is it that I want to do next year? What is it that I want to do in the years to come? What has served me? What have I grown through and learned this year that has been vital, maybe challenging, but enabled me to come to this place where I consider what's going to come and know that I have new skills to tackle it head on? There is a real feeling here of reflecting over what we may still want to do, what hasn't happened yet, and asking ourselves, what am I ready to let go of to make that happen? What am I ready to see leave my life, or what am I ready to experience? For me, there is a list of projects that I have in my mind worked through and planned 1,000 times, and yet some of them still have no tangible form. And I can recognize my strengths, but also the things that have potentially held me back. And through this cycle, through this maybe 5 years, let's just use that as an example, I can see the things that for me personally have not happened or have become a consistent theme that isn't going to go away overnight. So there is this feeling here of acceptance, accepting what we can't change, accepting that the world may have changed, circumstances may have changed, and actually they may not change in the ways in which we want. And where this sense of spiritual mastery comes in, of personal alchemy, of personal growth, and overcoming these, what we might see as limitations or blockages, is the recognition that we have a choice. The only thing that stands between us and the things that we want to do is the knowledge of how to do them. And I say that, and I know that can be really, really challenging for some people here because it's not that simple. And you're right, it isn't. But with knowledge, we can overcome any challenge. And again, that might be really jarring for some people to hear. But we start at our starting place where we are right now, and we ask ourselves, okay, so what is it that I feel that I perhaps have planned through, using myself as an example? What have I been dreaming about? What have I been wishing for? What have I been desiring? Where have my current results brought me to? Even over the last year, thinking about the things maybe you intended at the beginning of this year, the end of the last. What has this year shown you? What have been your greatest successes, but also what has held you back? And at a deeply innate spiritual level, at our own personal growth level, you know, when we really tune in to the reason we're here at this time, I don't feel it's because any of us were guaranteed an easy ride in the human experience. I think many of us have found this year and the years before it increasingly challenging. And yet we're here and we are focused on our growth and mastery, which means we are, in fact, transcending some of these challenges, not in a bypassing way, but for me, the magic, the alchemy, is in finding the way through them, is in recognizing the very real circumstances of our physical world, of our human lives, and saying, okay, well, they don't define me, but I also need to exist within this world. I am not just this human experience, depending on whatever your faith belief might be, but I'm also here right now. And in this here and now, what is it that I can do to bring a bit more joy to people's experience, to share a bit of the wisdom that I've learned, to share a bit more light on the planet? And light can be many things to many different people. These daily actions are the transcending of our circumstances. It's not always grandiose, it's not always viewed in public spaces or witnessed or acknowledged by others. But the fact that you're here, the fact that you are doing this for yourself, for those that you love, is commitment enough. It is dedication enough. And all of us are being presented with these challenges. There is a level of that spiritual amnesia where we almost forget that there is the us beyond this, and forget that feeling of expansion into the higher realms, into our higher selves, into our connection with our practices. Maybe they are deities, maybe that's through meditation and oneness. It'll be different for everybody. But through these distractions, through the chaos of the world, it becomes increasingly more challenging to remember that we are at all times living multiple different levels of our own existence in our physical reality and everything beyond it. There is higher purpose to all of this, even if it isn't winning awards or gaining that recognition from anywhere else. It's not about that. And this really feels like a time for honoring our own processes, for not comparing to anybody else, for leaning deeper into our own authenticity, for what feels truly authentic for us, and recognizing that some of what may not have worked out, some of what may have changed or fallen away this year, actually could have been the dismantling, the release of some of those old ways of being that we have outgrown. You know, look how much the world has changed. We ourselves change, we evolve, we grow, and we will always grow to the scope at which we understand our world. If we have limitations or limiting beliefs or a limited view of what is possible, and we all do to different levels, then we hit a ceiling, and going beyond that is always going to be the challenge. And how I find the spiritual and the real world versions of us meld is being able to see beyond the limitations, is to be able to retell our story in a way that empowers us, that enables us to fly a little bit higher, to shake off a little bit more of the debris that life is heaped upon us, and to rise again, and to continually rise through whatever circumstances that we face. So there is a reconnection with these deep parts of us, perhaps new parts that want to be expressed with the new gifts and skills that we've learned through our triumphs from overcoming the challenges that we've experienced, and really leaning into that authentic self that is emerging. Not to say that other versions of us are not authentic, but as we grow and evolve, the version of our authenticity in the present moment will also evolve. I hope that makes sense. We are not the same version of us that existed 5 years ago, and neither are our hopes, goals, dreams, and visions of the future. Nothing around us will be the same. Things are transient, things grow with us. So to lean into that evolution is to take an inward breath of excitement, of recognizing and honoring the desires, because some of them will have been a consistent feature for a very long time that we might not have attained yet. And some of them may be things that felt really important in the past that actually no longer have the same hold over us, and yet we could still be working towards them regardless, or have gotten a part of ourselves stuck in a loop where that felt of maybe just consistent action of working towards something that actually now, if we give ourselves this time, this space, this connection through these dark months of introspection, as we embrace the returning of the light gradually towards the spring again in the northern hemisphere, we're going to unveil and allow this current version, this new version, this emerging version of ourselves to grow and to thrive. So it comes with that out breath of letting go of what was, of a literal exhale of release, of letting go. And the full moon that's just passed, the full moon in Gemini, could have shown us those decisions, maybe those really deep decisions that have been asked of us, decisions we might not want to make. Perhaps it's not so much decisions as an inner thought process, a splitting off of our time and attention from one thing to the next. And again, this is part of this process we've been going through this whole time. And your own growth, your own development really is honoring that truth within us, that authenticity within us that says, actually, no, I see how much that meant to me for this time of my life. I honor how much it's taught me, how much I have gained on this process, through this process, and it's never going to leave me. It's always going to be a part of me, but also to embrace what's to come, to achieve more of my potential self, to really feel and allow myself to be guided by that higher self version, by my calling, if you want to put it that, by my sense of what feels most important for my spirit, for my being, for the people that I love, for my own enrichment, for the version of myself that will share the greatest gifts that can with those around me. What do I need to let go of? How do I become that? And again, that's where that knowledge comes in. That's the bit that is the key. And actually, we're very privileged to live in a world where, for many of us, knowledge is at our fingertips. We can access information more readily than ever before. So I really feel like this year has shown us maybe some starting places for coming to a new way of being. And I get the sense that next year is, whilst being more of the same, is going to take us deeper into understanding truly who we are and allowing that person to come to the surface with more freedom, with more authenticity, and to show up in service to those that we are around in a more authentic way. So I just wanted to share that. I hope it assists those of you at this time. I am going to do some runes. So let's get into those. What do we have? Now this is our need fire. This is the desire that rises within us. And of course, this, I will always say, is one of my favourite runes, because for me, it is the quintessential essence of alchemy. It's taking spiritual alchemy, of taking one thing and turning it into another with wisdom, with our own practice. And how this is relevant to Nathis and to this message is that we can have negative emotions, or emotions that we perceive as negative, and it's very easy to repress them and to shut them down because they're uncomfortable, because they might not seem spiritual, because of the way in which the world has portrayed certain spiritual experiences as being more vital than others, of being light without any kind of dark or shadow. And actually the shadow work that we do integrated within us, the keys are within that. The keys to the evolution, to the growth, to the ascension, whatever you want to call it, lie within being able to face the shadow, the need, the desire, what's calling to us. And that can be at a very earthly level. Maybe you crave after something or lust after something. Maybe there is the discomfort, the loss, the feeling of not having something. And within that is the key to understanding what it is that we as individuals truly want, to where we feel lack, to where we feel restriction, and allowing ourselves to actually view that self and what it needs to flourish, what it needs to grow, what it needs to thrive. That's the key. That's where the magic is. That's where the work is and the growth is. And there is so much beauty to be found within understanding an energy such as this. It's easy to run away from, to want to hide from, and to avoid. But if you can lean into those unpleasant sensations, work through them, allow yourself to process them, maybe there is something underlying that is ready to be healed or released or transmuted. And for me, the transmutation, the transmutation and the alchemy of this rune lies within being able to say, okay, I know I feel angry, or I feel jealous of something somebody has, or I feel this feeling like I'm not good enough. And maybe all of that has an underlying root in something that you desire, that you want. And within that, there is a key for how to transform the self. It's because you actually want to have this experience. You don't begrudge that person, their experience, if they have it and you don't. There is a key within you there to say, okay, well then I need to be more like this. What would that version of myself do? How would that person go about in the day to experience more of that? And it's a process. It might not be easy, but it's the key that unlocks the feeling of frustration, and again enables the transmutation to get you to where you want to be, rather than being stuck in that residual emotion, or worse, repressing it and allowing it to stay under the surface without a voice, without space to come up, to be felt, to be released. And that's how you fully process those emotions in order to get to where you want to be. What do we have here? Dagas. Again, we are welcoming the return of the light with Winter Solstice in the Northern Hemisphere, summer in the Southern. So this is the passing of time, honouring the cycle of your life, honouring the cycle that you are in right now, and the micro cycles within each year, within each season, that bring us to greater realization, knowing that no one experience is going to remain the same forever. It simply can't. Things evolve, things change, just as the world does. So this is recognizing the part of a cycle that you're in right now, and actually how that fits into the wider range of cycles that we all experience within our lives. I feel like this is asking you to honor what may have been very, very challenging, and recognizing that you have in fact overcome certain things. You are still here. You are still able to take a deep breath and to honor just how far you've come. So you should do that. And it just really feels like the passing of time here is quite an important theme. I don't know enough about astrology to know where exactly all the planets are. I know we have a big planetary alignment, but this feels like a coming together of things, a coming together of timelines, of potential, that also maybe kicks us into the realization of what we still really want. And maybe we thought that maybe it's just that marker, a marker of time, honoring and recognizing that some things we might need to invest more time and effort into. If there's something that you were thinking about doing 5 years ago that you still haven't fully brought into life, but it's still, you've thought about it every single day, you've been dreaming about it, asking yourself, how am I going to do this thing? This could be one of those moments where you devote yourself to creating a new pattern, to devoting a new time within your life, space within your life, to start a fresh cycle, to actually bring that into being. And again, I know I make that sound really easy. These experiences, these energies are a process. It's not typically an overnight thing. There can be a catalyst, a decision, something more like a Savilo energy where we do things and it's like that, it clicks and we do it and we take an action. But that's also a component of a much larger process, of a bigger cycle. So this looks at, it feels like this is looking at the microcycles within the bigger cycles, within the greater life cycle, and just recognizing that we will shift through them and can shift through them. There is empowerment in knowing that we can shift through them, which means allowing and embracing endings as much as we welcome the new beginnings. It can be really scary, but that again is where we take our power back from feeling like these things are happening to us and we have no purchase over them, we have no control over them. Often we don't, but we do get to choose who we're going to be in the face of those changes. Let's get one more. Okay, Yira. And of course, this is a brilliant rune, although connected to the harvest. Again, we're connected to cycles for something coming to completion. And this really feels like it ties up that message I shared at the very beginning of coming to a place where you can look at what this year has brought you. What have your results been? And I mean, that sounds really, really dry. It's not an appraisal, but sometimes we do have to be real with ourselves and honest with ourselves. And that can be that kind of tough love, self-reparenting that we need, that says, okay, you have done really well. You've been living in survival mode for this phase or for this part of life, and you've still carried on. You know, this is, as a collective, that's been one of our greatest challenges these last few years. But this asks us to say, okay, but what can we do differently? Again, taking back our power from what might be incredibly difficult outer circumstances. What can I do? What can I change? What can I bring forth? And tell myself that I can do this small action every day, or I can do this thing and it is going to make a difference. And the commitment and that masculine energy, regardless of any gender, within ourselves, that discipline, that commitment, that drive, it might not be a huge overnight change, but that's where that inner strength comes in that says, actually, no, this is right for me, or in fact, this is wrong for me, and this hasn't been working. And it's where we can be real with ourselves and say, well, this is what I want, and I've got to try this in order to see if this is going to work, but actually this hasn't worked, and I've done this for this amount of time and it hasn't worked, or it hasn't got me to where I want to be. And there are loads of outer variables. We don't control everything, we can only do our best, but it does come back to that point of honesty, self-honesty, and really being able to take responsibility, to personal accountability for what it is that we want to change in an empowered way in order to get the results that we do want to get, or to do the things that we do want to do. So I'm going to leave this message here. I just wanted to thank you for sharing your time with me as ever. I apologise for the sparsity of these videos over the past year, But I've got new projects that I am excited to share within the new year, taking my own advice, and I'll be excited to share those with you in all of their different manifestations as the year evolves. I wish you a beautiful festive time, whatever you celebrate with your family, with your loved ones, with those that matter the most to you. And I hope it can be healing and restorative as we embrace this new cycle and these new beginnings. Sending you all my love, and I will speak to you very, very soon. Take care.